Hi kitty cats! My mum was telling me recently that I should make a new video because she watches them, and she said that she really misses the videos I used to make on my old channel. Like, I made one called 5 Rants About the World, and it was basically me just talking about the world. But on this new channel, I've really only made beauty videos, fashion hauls, a few kind of relatable videos, but I've not made anything where I've just talked about issues, because I feel like that's a big part of me, and I want my YouTube channel to show every kind of side of me. That's why I do things to do with fashion, and I also do things to do with beauty because I'm very interested in those things. But alongside that, I'm also interested in talking about the world. I'm a very inquisitive person, as my friends or my family would tell you. I am constantly asking huge questions, huge unanswerable questions, and I kind of wanted to share a bit of that with you. So I'm going to start a new series on here called 5 Rants, and each video will be 5 rants about something. So on my last channel I made one called 5 Rants About the World, but obviously the world is everything, or pretty much everything. So I'm going to try to break it up a bit into little sections, and hopefully I won't repeat anything that I've mentioned before, but if I do, I'll definitely add more to them. So this is the first video in the series, and it's called 5 Rants About Education. My first issue with education: uninspiring teachers. I have had a range of teachers over the time I've been in education. I'm now in uni, but I went to primary school, which was a state primary school, and then I went to a private girls' secondary school. So why I find teachers who can't motivate children properly particularly annoying is because often you go to class and you feel like you could have done a better job. You feel like you could have taught the children or the adults to learn in a much better way. I find that certain teachers are so motivating and they're so in love with their topic that they teach it to you in such a way that you can't help but listen. You can't help but feel like you're understanding things and like you're hearing all these different perspectives on the subject area. To give you an example of that, at uni I do 5 modules at the moment because I'm in my first year, and the module that I'm actually finding the easiest is taught by a lecturer who will help me. If I have any questions, I can come to him and he'll help me, he'll give me extra questions, and he's just been very supportive on the whole. But to begin with, I also understood it the best out of all my modules because he gave us examples that were very, very similar to the actual test. So other than there being different numbers and stuff, it was easy to learn the format and learn how to approach the question, and then you'd be fine for the test. As long as you practiced it a few times, you'd be fine. Whereas I have other modules, like there's one in particular that I'm thinking of where we were given barely any examples, barely any help really. We went to seminars and we didn't really understand much, and we did complain about it, but they didn't do a lot to help. And even when we went for extra sessions to kind of get more of a gist of the area, the teachers just weren't very helpful and they didn't teach us what we needed to know. I feel like certain teachers really shouldn't be teachers, and I don't understand why they ever became them, because you can see that they're so bored. They stand at the front of the class and they have droning kind of voices and they just don't look very inspired by what they're teaching about. And then you have the extreme opposites where they're just so consumed by the topic they're teaching. Like, I had a maths teacher at secondary school who I loved, even though she was the scariest teacher I've ever had. I really loved her because she taught us really well. She gave us all the examples that we needed. She gave us proper guidance on the subject and on different topics, and I think that's why I did the best in maths, because I really liked the way she taught, and I feel I learned a lot from her. I really wouldn't be so good at maths without her, so I'm very thankful. I found that different students learn in different ways, and I think most of you probably know that by now. There are different types of learners. I think there are three main different types, and one's, I don't know the proper names, but one's more visual, like you need to see diagrams and pictures and then you learn that way. One's more audio, so like you need to listen to different things, like you could record something and listen to it, and that would be a good way to learn. And one where you have to actually do the thing, or you have to do examples, or you have to be working with something in the real world and then you'll understand the theory behind it. That's what I was. Lots of people are a mixture of these. Some people just relate to one in particular. Also, I find that different people need different types of teachers, and that's what's very difficult for a teacher, because they can't be the teacher that everyone needs, because different people need different kind of attention. I found that I worked better with individual attention because I was not the kind of person who would put up my hand. I always got told in my parents' evenings that Christina didn't participate in class discussions because I never put up my hand in class. Even if I knew the answer, I used to feel really embarrassed if I got it wrong. So I just didn't put my hand up, so I got picked on, which was even worse. But I find with the individual attention, then I can't really escape it. I can't be not putting my hand up because they're always watching what I'm doing, and I find that usually helps. That's why I did very well with tuition when I got ill and I needed extra support. I also find that some students work better with teachers who are strict and scary, and that's how they do their homework every night, that's how they feel motivated. But the problem was, even though I said that my maths teacher in secondary school was very strict and scary and I did well with her, I still would have preferred if she wasn't so strict and scary, because I definitely work better with teachers who are kind to me and who tell me when I'm doing well and who encourage me. That's what I need. I need major encouragement and I need individual kind of attention, because otherwise I tend to just sit back at the edge of the class trying to like exclude myself from the discussions, and if there's like something that I'm really not understanding, I always try it myself first, and I'm trying to figure out what it is because I can see everyone else is getting it, so I must be able to get it, so I just keep trying until I get it. But that's not always the best thing to do, because then you're missing the next information because you're still trying to work out the last thing without just asking the teacher. And if I had a scary teacher, then I would be even more scared about asking her, so I just wouldn't. So in that way, I don't think it was very profitable for me to have a strict teacher at any time during my education. If any teachers are watching this, or any people who want to be teachers in the future, I think what you need to take from this is that students work much better with teachers who are not strict and scary all the time, and who do encourage them when they do something right or they do something well, or they get over 75% in a test. I think you should encourage them, because that means they're putting in the revision, that means they're trying their hardest, and therefore they deserve encouragement. I also think teachers who prepare in advance and make sure that well before the exams your students know all the core information are very good, because you need to know all the core information in advance so that you have time to revise and you have time to go over everything, and the teacher has time to help you if there are any issues you have over the course. The third thing I'd like you to take from this is actually for students rather than teachers. If you're a student and you find you're not understanding something, I know how difficult it is to put up your hand in class or to go to the teacher outside of lessons, especially if you're a quiet person or you're a bit introverted. It's really scary, and I'm quite extroverted when I'm with people, like I can talk quite a lot, but with teachers or people who have positions of authority, I get scared and I get nervous, and that makes me not want to ask them. But honestly, the best thing you can do if you don't understand something is ask for help, because without asking for help, there's no assurance that you will understand the topic fully before the exam comes. So it's really worth just asking, going through it, and I can guarantee that almost every teacher will love to help you and will love you to do well in your exams, because that's why they became teachers, because they want their kids to do really well. They want their kids to be able to survive in the working world, and they need qualifications to do that, so that's why they're teaching you. So rant number 2, this is about revision. I don't even know if I can approach this subject. It's slightly to do with organisation too. When I was younger, I was not very organised at all. I used to leave everything to the last minute. I did my homework, but when it came to revision for exams, I never got stuff done in time. So it was always this last minute struggle and staying up late the night before trying to learn it all, which is really bad because you need a full night's rest before your exam, ideally. As I've progressed through education, I think I've become much more organised. My class at uni, they always go on about me being organised because I always write stuff down when there are deadlines and things, and I'm always doing little revision on the side as I'm going through the year. But when it comes to exams, I am never organised. Like, even if I try my hardest to be organised, I never will be because I am a major procrastinator. I've talked about this in various videos, but I honestly think it's my worst quality because I find it so easy to say to myself in my head, okay, I have a test in 3 days. This is not an exam, it's just a test, so it's not as important. However, I still need to revise for it. And then in my head I say, well, I have probably a full day's worth of revision to do for that test. Then I say, but I've got 3 days to do it. And then I say to myself, okay, it's 9 o'clock now. I'll start my revision at midday. Yeah, I'll start it at 12. And then 3 hours pass, it gets to 12, and then I think, I'm not ready to do it yet. I'll start it in half an hour. I'll start it at 12:30, then I'll be ready to do it. Then 12:30 comes, and then I'm like, I'll just leave it a bit later. What about 2? I'll definitely start it at 2. And it just keeps going, and then eventually it gets to about 4:30 and it's time for my mum to come home, or my sister, or whoever's living with me, or even my friends to come over, and then I spend the rest of the evening with them, do no work whatsoever. Then the next day comes and I'm like, oh, suddenly I've only got 2 days left and this test is coming up. So then I get a bit more panicky and I think, right, I'll start 11 today. Then it gets to 11 and again I'm like, I still have time, I can still get this done. How about I start at 1? I'll definitely start at 1. Then it comes to 1 and then again I'll be like, I'll just quickly have a shower and then I'll start. And so I'll go have my shower and then I'll come back and then I'll be like, oh, after doing my hair and after doing my makeup and after doing all these other little things and watching TV and stuff, it's suddenly 4 o'clock and my exam is in 2 days' time and I've barely got any time left. So then I panic a little bit. Then I do a bit of revision for probably about an hour or 2, but it's still not enough. And then my parents come home or my friends come over, and then again I'm distracted by all these other things and I can't motivate myself to study. And then the day before the test arrives and I'm suddenly like, oh my goodness, the test is tomorrow, I really need to do my work now. And so on that day I sit down from about 9 in the morning and I'm constantly revising. I give myself like a break for lunch, which usually would last like quite a long time, because when I have a break, I'm not good at going back to work after a 15-minute break or after a half an hour break. I am really bad at this. I either have to have a big break that lasts about an hour at least, sometimes an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours, or I just have to be working for about 2 to 3 hours constantly. That's the only way I can work. So on the days that I decide to do work, I usually work for about 3 hours, then I have a break of about 2 hours, then I work for another 2 hours, then I have a break of an hour, then I have work for another 2 hours, and it's like that. And that's the only way I can work. I'm just not very good at taking breaks in a smart kind of manner. I really don't like the way the education system works in England, because if I had my way, I would much prefer it if we had tests throughout the year that assess how well you're doing on each topic. So you have a test after each topic, and then at the end of the year they're all weighted by the same amount and all the scores are put together and an average is found, and that is your score for the year. Because I find the way they do it at uni is a lot better than the way they do it at A-levels or GCSEs. In GCSEs, I think we had modules for different subjects, so that made it a bit easier because they were spread out throughout the year. But for A-levels, for a lot of subjects, it was mainly weighted on the massive exam at the end of the year. And I hate that, because if you do badly on that one exam, that's the only chance you've got, and I don't think that's the way things should work. The good thing about uni is that here we've been having tests in each module, throughout the year, and those have at least contributed to a small percentage of our final grade. So at least you're being able to put in some of the final grade before you actually get to the big exams at the end, where there's lots of stress and lots of pressure, because I do not work well under pressure. I tend to panic, and if I panic then my mind goes blank, I can't think straight, and after doing all that revision it just goes straight out the window because I forget it all and I can't understand what's in front of me, the question paper that in front of my eyes. It's awful. Now it's time for rant number 3. It's about the cliques. I don't even know how to approach this topic. If you've never watched the movie Mean Girls, please watch it right now, because that's probably your best introduction. Whatever secondary school you go to, there are always going to be these cliques, and I really, really hate them. In movies you always kind of see it in the dining hall, where they have all these different tables, and on each table there's a different group of people, and on one table there'll be like the arty people and the people who do loads of drawing and are very artistic in their clothing and all of that. And then there'll always be the popular table, where there's all these people who have parties all the time and have all these different friends and are really sociable. And then there'll be another table of like geeks, as people like to call them, who are very interested in their studies and maths and science generally. And there are all these different cliques or groups of people, which I hate. I hate that. I hate that whole idea or belief that that is normal, because it's not normal. Like, why should that be normal? And what are you meant to do if you don't fit into one of those cliques? Where are you meant to go? I found at my secondary school it wasn't so bad as it is at some secondary schools, but I don't like cliques. I don't like the idea of them. I don't like the idea of there being a popular gang in every year, because I don't think it prepares you very well for later on in life, and I think it encourages bullying too, which I really hate. Like, that is one of my major issues with the world. I just wish we could do away with the cliques. If you take one thing from this, try and put up a fight against the cliques. When you're older, you look back on high school, and instead of remembering all the fun times, you just see these cliques and these different groups and these people who made you feel very uncomfortable at school. When you should be enjoying yourself at school. It's the time that you don't have to work to earn a living, you just have to study. It should be the time in your life that you actually really enjoyed, and sometimes these cliques can get in the way of that and can make it seem like a bad place to be. Rant number 4. This rant is going to be about uniform. I think we need something nationwide, a rule saying that either we all have uniform or we all don't have uniform. Because I remember going to school and being in uniform and seeing other people who weren't in uniform, and vice versa too. Like, when I was in sixth form, I didn't have to wear a uniform. I got to wear whatever I wanted, except there were certain regulations. Like, you couldn't wear flip-flops, you couldn't wear strappy tops, you couldn't wear short skirts or short shorts. So generally what everyone would wear is t-shirts like I'm wearing right now, and jeans and that kind of thing. And I did like that. I thought it was a good thing about sixth form, because it made you feel like you were ready to start uni, and it was preparing you for that, which was really good. And I liked how my school had uniform for the rest of secondary school, because until you got to sixth form you were looking forward to it, because that's when you got to get rid of your uniform. But also, uniform gives you some sort of feeling of society and fitting in somewhere, basically. And it's nice that different schools have different uniforms to show kind of individuality and where you belong. I think it's a really good thing. So I think nationwide we should make it that in primary school and secondary school you wear uniform, and then in sixth form or colleges you don't wear uniform. And that there should be rules for when you don't wear uniform, as I mentioned before, but hopefully not too strict, because you should be able to show a bit of your individuality, because you can in university later on. Rant number 5. My last issue is to do with pressure in general. I don't think schools and universities do enough to relieve you of the pressure that you're feeling when you're in them. As I've said many times before, I deal with anxiety and panic attacks, and recently they haven't been as bad. However, I do think I had one in a test that I had fairly recently. I had a panic attack attack, but apart from that, I don't think I've really had many. But I think the main cause to my panic attacks is education in general. As much as I love education, I do love learning, and I don't know where we'd be without it. I think certain people and certain ideas pressurise you during education, especially the idea that you have to get 3 A levels to get into uni as a starting point. People will only be happy with you if you get an A or an A star in a subject. If you don't begin revising before the few revision weeks that you're given before your end of year exams, then you're going to be stuck and you won't do well in your exams and you're going to fail everything. I also panicked because it took me a while to find the best ways to revise. I've now found them. What I found is the best thing to do is to buy yourself a diary first of all. Always make sure to write your homeworks, deadlines, exams, tests, everything in there as soon as you find them out. To add to that, I believe you should buy an A5 project book for each of your subjects. In uni that would mean each of your modules, in school that would mean each of your class subjects. For example, maths, you'd have one project book and another for English. This is what they look like, this is just one that I've got. For each topic you can use another divider for your main 3 topics, and then for each of these topics you can have different sections for different topics inside, like mini sections, and each mini section you can just start with a new coloured title. As soon as you start learning at the start of the year, you need to start filling in this project book. If you're given mini tests throughout the year that cover everything on the syllabus, then each time you have a mini test, revise for it in this book, because then you'll have your revision from all the mini tests across the year and you would have covered the whole syllabus in your project book, and when you get to the end all you need to do is learn it. But it's all written down and it's all there for you, so it's much easier to do. And it's okay if you fall a bit behind, but try and keep it up as best as you can, because it'll be much easier to learn from that way. I also found that I need big blocks of revision, as I've mentioned before. I can't revise with 45 minutes of work and 15-minute break, and then 45 minutes of work and a 15-minute break, or some people do 55 minutes work and then a 5-minute break and 55 minutes work, 5-minute break. I can't do work like that. I have to work for 3 hours, then have an hour break, then work for 2 hours and have an hour break, and then work for 3 hours and have an hour break, and that kind of routine is how I work best. But you do have to make sure you go back to your revision. Just remind yourself, whenever you're thinking of just relaxing, tell yourself that you can relax after your exam, you can relax after your test, you can go out as much as you like, and then you can feel good because you would have done well in your test. Whereas if you relax and go out now, then you won't do as well in your test and you'll be regretting it in weeks to come. So it's not a good idea. I hope you enjoyed my video. I'll see you all soon. Bye kitty cats. I really hope I haven't lost any of you yet. Dr. Pepper is my favourite drink in the world. It's so yummy. I liked it ever since I was little. I can't believe I'm going to tell you this, but when I was about 10 years old, I went, oh, this is so horrible.